Porter Williams. Tēnā koe.
Mr Chairman, as I look across the chamber, I can see many of my colleagues who have had an association with the home and community sector in their previous lives. So what I'm about to say will come as no surprise to them, I'm sure. Mr Chairman, this bill is really about equity on a whole lot of levels. It's about equity for pay, to recognise that home and community care is as important, if not more important, than many other roles out there. It's about equity for gender, because 91% of the people who perform the work in the community are women. It's about equity for training and for the recognition of the training that many of these home care workers undertake when they are undertaking some very advanced personal care. They may be involved in peg feeding. They may be even involved in supporting medically fragile children with skills and training that is second to none, but is not recognised currently in their pay rate.
Thanks.
And also it's about the equity of recognition of the status of the care that is delivered in the community, that it can be as good as, if not better than, care that is provided in institutions. And let's face it, many of our older people really value the opportunities to stay well in their own homes and in the communities of their choice. So this bill we support wholeheartedly because it recognises all of those inequities, and it does go some way to addressing them. This bill actually also recognises the work that has been done by unions, by the DHB, by the Ministry of Health, and by those home care service providers themselves to come to an arrangement that sees us going some way to having fairer wages for workers in the support service. And if I can talk a little bit about what I understand of the background that has got us to this place. Over the last several years, we've engaged in a process of reassessing the levels of care that the recipients of this care require. And as our healthcare dollar is stretched even further, assessments have been made that the amount of time to deliver specific pieces of care, whether that be around looking after someone's home, or preparing someone's meal, or doing personal care such as showering, or helping people with their shopping, or around issues of social isolation, that the time required to complete those functions has been diminished somewhat. And that is really around our ability to deliver more service for the time that home care worker has. So as a consequence of that home care worker may be delivering services to more people in the course of their 8 or 9 hour day, or however many hours they may work across a day, than they would have done in the past. Now, what this has required is more travel because as a consequence of having more clients to work for in your normal hours of work, the travel period, the amounts of travel you are doing has increased. So it is right that we should recognise that travel between our clients is actually part of our work, and we should get paid for that. And this bill addresses that. It doesn't address necessarily the issue of what we should be paying, which given the sensitive nature of the care that is delivered, in my view, we should be paying these very caring people a lot more than we are. So Part 1, Clause 4, really relates to that settlement, that agreement that was made by those 4 parties. And also Part 2, Clause 10, speaks to a very important principle that has been used in this bill, which is that no healthcare service employee be financially disadvantaged. Now, that's underpinned much of the discussion and debate, that they should not be financially disadvantaged, and that has led us to the point where we are now, Mr Chairman, we are now in the position to pay for travel between clients. With reference to Part 2, Clause 6, this bill also will extinguish some of the current claims that healthcare service employees may have, that will settle that. Part 328 also looks at amending the Minimum Wage Act to provide an exemption of requirement to pay wages at the minimum rate. And also, just on that note, there is a Part 3 does look at amending 3 acts, the Minimum Wage Act, which will then require home care services to pay for travel at minimum wage, no less than minimum wage. Clause 29 looks at the amendments to the Employment Relations Act, because that travel time will now actually be counted as employment time. So it will have a significance on employment agreements, and it also only relates to workers who have who attract a wage. It doesn't apply to salaried staff. And also Clause 30 looks at the amendment to the Holidays Act, which of course has reference to the fact that the travel time is now included as work time. So it has reference to Holidays Act. Mr Chairman, you cannot look at the work of a home care support worker in isolation just around the funding stream that may come from the Ministry of Health or the District Health Boards. And one thing that the Select Committee did manage to get included in this legislation is to include the work that is conducted for Accident Compensation Corporation, because many of the workers will be working across a range of clients who will be have their care managed either by DHBs, the Ministry of Health, or the Accident Compensation Corporation. And to leave ACC out of this legislation would have been unfair and would have meant that you would have had 2 stratas of payments, which is not right and is not appropriate. Mr Chairman, I just want to finish by commending commending the bill, commending all of those home care workers who have spent so many hours really fighting for this, this to come to the House and actually be enacted. And I pay homage to the work that they do. Many of us know we have older parents who are cared for well in their homes, and without that they would have to be in institutions, and we know the value of having our loved ones in their places of, in their own residence in the community. It has far better outcomes for them and their well-being and their quality of life, and it certainly has far better impact for us on our health spend. So, Mr Chairman, in conclusion, I recommend, I support this bill and commend it to the House.